pockets and envelopes to your different projects is a really fun way of adding some extra storage space into your journals and albums. And it's great when we have different kind of punches and dies and things that we can cut those out. The challenge with using your dies and punches to make these kind of envelopes though is that you're restricted in how big your envelopes can be by the die and the punch. So what I want to share with you today is with a little bit of measurement, you can make any size pocket envelope that you need. I even have made these little bitty ones that I'm going to need for a project. I don't have a die or punch that will cut this, but we're going to do a little bit of calculation, a little bit of measurement, and you can make any size that you need. I have an area here that is 3 by 3 in which I want to put a little envelope. So I'm going to show you how we can size an envelope that's going to fit in that space. And what I've decided to do is I want a pocket envelope that is going to be 2.5 inches tall, and it's going to be 2 inches wide, and that would fit into my 3 by 3. So this is what I start with the dimensions. Now when I want to build the pocket, I want to have a flap up at the top that is 1/2 inch long, and I'm also going to need a flap right here at the bottom that will fold up. That's going to close it off, and I'm going to say that's 1/2 inch. So to me, the easiest dimension to get is this length. We're going to add a half, and 2 to 2.5. So basically you're adding 1 to that total length that you want. So that's going to give us 3.5. Now let's say for how wide, what we're going to do, we're doing a pocket that folds, and if the length is 2, we need at least 2 to fold back over, but we're going to need a little bit of an overlap on that as well. So we're going to start with the 2 inches on the front, and then to fold over, I'm going to give it a 1 1/4 plus a 1 1/4. And those are going to be these 2 pieces here on the side that we're going to fold in. So this is going to give us this length across here. When we add this together, we're going to get 4.5. And this is for the project that I'm doing. So all in all, I'm going to need a piece of cardstock or designer series paper, whichever one you're going to use. That is 4.5 by 3.5. So I'm going to grab that and let's get started making our pocket. This is my 4.5 by 3.5 inch paper. And what this is going to help us do also with the dimensions that we have worked up is it's going to help with the scoring. So across, we know that I wanted the 2.5 length for how tall the pocket's going to be, but I have to score at 1/2 inch on either end. So we're going to turn here, and I'm going to score 1/2 inch on this side and 1/2 inch on this side, and that will give me 2.5 in between. If I were to go ahead and fold these right here, I would have a length of 2.5, which I do. Now, these parts are going to fold in to make our pocket. So we need to do some other scoring, and that was at 1 1/4 and 1 1/4. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn each one. So I'm going to, first I need to go at 1 1/4 and score that. And then I'm going to switch sides and do it at 1 1/4 on this side. I could come up with the other dimensions, but to me it's just easier. You're not having to deal with your fractions and adding. That's going to give us our folds right there. So we're going to fold in here and fold in there. And so we've got a little bit of an overlap that's going to help us with our gluing. I'm going to use my bone folder to get these really crisp. I'll move this out of the way. Now we're going to also we have to do a little bit of cutting. So we're going to take our scissors, and where we folded, this is actually going to be our top flap and bottom flap where I'm holding. I need to cut off these pieces here, and it's a little bit easier for me to see from this side So I'm going to show you this. We're just going to trim off basically the corners that we have scored. Another rule of thumb, something that we need to do, is we're going to taper or miter the edges. Any piece, and my cut is not very straight right there. Let me get that a little bit straighter. Any pieces that are going to fold in, by rule of thumb, you will want to miter. And that just helps as we're doing any kind of folds. So you can see this is what we're coming up with. We're beginning to come to life a little bit with our pocket. But if I try to fold just like this, it's kind of a little tight. So what I have to do is I'm going to do these miter cuts. And that's just cutting at a little bit of an angle on, like I said, all the slots where we're going to cut inward. And I'm even going to do it on these larger edges. So basically, I'm going to turn it over because it's easier for me to cut that way, being right-handed, to cut in that direction. Every piece, which turns out to be every edge in this case, that folds in, we're going to give that little bit of an angle. And I think well, nope, I have one more to go. This one right here, I can tell, needs a little bit of an angle. Now, get all those scraps out of the way. When we fold in our sides, everything just feels a lot nicer. It's folding much easier. Okay, so now we're going to be ready to do some gluing. I have this little glue sheet down. Here is a little trick that I have picked up on. If you're gluing two pieces together like this, so that we don't have so much glue seeping through and maybe possibly gluing this together, here is the trick that I'm going to use. I'm going to take the furthest edge of the piece on the bottom, which is right here, and I'm going to do a line of glue. And then the furthest edge over here that we fold down, we put some glue. Because we know that's going to hit this side and that's going to hit this side, and we can fold it down and just do a light push through. Now, I'm also going to fold this up, so I'm just going to do a little bit of glue along the bottom here, fold this up, and then I like to use a paperweight so the glue can set and we'll get to work on something else. I want to use a piece of twine to wrap the little envelope pocket closed, and so I'm going to trim out a piece that is approximately 7 inches in length. I may not need that total length there. Now I'm going to use a black piece of cardstock because I've got the black. I'm going with the black and white theme. I have this little hole punch, and as you can see, it just makes a little hole right here. This hole punch I just picked up, I think, at Hobby Lobby. I don't even have the name brand. What I'm going to do is first I want to make 2 holes. I'm not even going to go as far as I could go with this hole punch, because I'm now going to take my 1 inch, I'm now going to take my 1/2 inch circle punch, and I'm going to punch out 2 circles with those holes in the middle. And pop these out. Now the reason I have seen it before, you could punch the holes first and then do the smaller, but it's kind of hard to place that round circle in the round circle in a small circle too. So I like to do this one first and then punch the other hole out. Now I've also taken 2 brads, and I'm actually going to, they are so small and you may not have any problem with them, but I'm going to slightly open these just a little bit because it's just easier for me to work with that way. I'm going to take my pocket now, and this is the flap here. Oops. And I'm going to take my little circle punch again, the little tiny hole, and I'm going to punch a hole almost in the middle of this 1/2 inch flap. So I just want to punch a hole, and then in this part, because this is going to fold down, I want to go a little ways. I'm going to go halfway down. And again, this works. This is the dimension that works for my small pocket. Remember, that's 2.5 by 2. This is a small little envelope pocket. Now, what I want to do next is I'm going to take the little black circles that I punched, and on the back side, I don't think it really matters. I'm just going to do a little strip of glue around that hole, around the hole. I want to leave some of the hole open, and so I may have gotten a little bit too much glue on there. Now we want to line that up, and I'm going to leave this one here to kind of be getting a little bit dry and sticky. I'm going to take my brad and put this through the hole, and it may be a little tricky for me to do because, like I said, the brad is so small, but I've got that through, and then I want to close that up. I did some finagling and was able to get in there and close that up. Now I'm going to take the hole and I put this here in the middle for the flap. Line those holes up. And then let's put the brad in. This one's a little bit easier to do because we've got this free space here on the back. And have our brad there. So it's kind of hard to see because it's black on black, but we're next going to take our twine, and I want to take this around that little circle piece, and I want to tie a knot, and I want everything as much as possible to be behind that little circle. Again, like I had mentioned before, I know my pocket here is very tiny, but sometimes our projects are like that, and we need these smaller pieces that we don't always have dies for. I'm going to cut that string right there. Then I can take this and wrap it around this circle. I'm going to make sure it's up a little bit and do a little figure 8 closure around the circles. And now I have my little pocket with closure. And then when we're ready to open it, we just open that right back up and we can get inside the little pocket. I have my 3 pockets now. Again, these are really tiny at 2 by 2.5. They're going to be perfect though to maybe put some little stickers in or any kind of little small little tags that I have. And the best part is that I have them custom fit to fit in the area where I'm going to need them most, which is right here on this 3 by 3 flap. I didn't have a die, I didn't have anything else that would fit for that, but it works for exactly what I'm looking for. And the easiest way again to do that is you take your dimensions, you draw them out, and you want to add a 1/2 inch to the top, 1/2 inch to the bottom, and then on either side we need to double plus add a 1/2 inch. And that's the way that I do it, and that's what works for me. I hope this has helped, and I hope now you can go and make some cute little pocket envelopes for your projects. Be sure to look for the next video where I'm actually going to show you how I implement and use these different pockets on what this project is.